Good evening. So it seems as though something has led you to the campsite of the Orator. Well, as you can see, I've stoked the fire, which means it's time for you to pull up your chair and settle in, because tonight, I have another tale to tell. Staying at your best friend's house overnight is a time-honored tradition. Everybody loves to do that. But what do you do when your best friend's house is haunted? What do you do when you wake up in the middle of the night and you are being attacked by a spirit from the other side? But before we begin, if you find yourself enjoying this kind of content, first-hand true accounts of the supernatural, paranormal, things that go bump in the night, then allow the spirits to guide your planchette to both the like and subscribe button as well as the notification bell. That way you get notified every time I upload new content. Second, as I mentioned, all my stories are true first-hand accounts of the supernatural and paranormal. Today's story comes from us from Redditor TomatoSilly7057, and I'll make sure to link their original story below. But if you or anybody you know has a story and you think that it would fit well on my channel, just reach out to me on any of my social media, and we'll find a time to get together, collect your story, and potentially one day feature it here on The Orator. And lastly, a couple of quick announcements. Number one, really exciting, I have another new t-shirt design that is dropping tonight, right now, going live on my shop. I am calling it An Audience of Specters, brought again by the great Jack's Attic as I sit and tell stories not only for you, but all of my ghastly friends. Make sure to check that out along with my classic logo design and my Best Fiends Forever design. They're all available on the shop now. You also can, of course, support me via Patreon, and those links are always below. And as always, I appreciate the support endlessly. Second, for the month of July, I am going to be dropping down to only one video a month. We're going to be doing Fridays only. The reason is because this Monday, my wife and I are going to close on a house. And during the entire month of July, we're going to be packing up and moving and getting ready. And so then in the month of August, I'm going to be at my new place, brand new office, amazing yard with a big fire pit out back. So I'm going to be doing some live stories from outside in the by the fire, and it's going to be absolutely incredible. But during the month of July, I just ask for your patience while we get that move done, so I can get back to you and tell more terrifying tales. And lastly, I do apologize for the eye. Bigfoot and I were playing chess, and he's a sore loser, so I do apologize for that. I hope it's not a big distraction tonight. And now, with all of that out of the way, let's finally get on to today's tale. It is a story that I call Tomoko Terror. Hana is a 19-year-old woman who lives in Malaysia. She has just made the transition from high school and she's moving into college, and she's doing all of this with one of her very best friends, Mira. Now, Hana and Mira, they hang out all of the time, both in and out of school, and as often best friends like to do, they stay at each other's houses. The problem is, Mira and her entire family claim that their house is haunted. And while Hana's never experienced anything in their house personally, she really does believe in the supernatural and the paranormal, and so she's always sort of, every time she's at Mira's house, expecting something to happen, but nothing ever does. And so over the years, even though she really does believe, Mira and her family, that there is some kind of spirit, some entity in their house, she's just never experienced it before. That is, until one random night. She's over at Mira's house, as she is all of the time. This is just a totally normal evening. They're up in Mira's bedroom, they're playing, they're hanging out, they're talking, and as they're kind of talking and messing around, there's just sort of like this, it almost sounds like a scratching sound, as if there was a dog in the room scratching at the carpet. And it's in the corner of the room, and both the girls pause and they look at it, and Hana, she kind of looks at Mira like, did you hear that? And she even asks her, like, am I hearing stuff, or do you hear that? And Mira right away, she's like, no, just all we can do is ignore it. Just leave it alone and let's hope it goes away. And so Hana does. She tries to ignore the sound, but the longer she's sitting there, the more persistent this sound is getting, and it's very loud, and they're the only ones home in the house. Everything else is turned off, so it's not like this could be a noise from downstairs or someone left a TV running. It's right here in this bedroom, and it's coming from the corner. They can both hear it. They should be able to see what's making this noise, but there's just nothing. And so Hana and Mira, they continue to talk and sort of ignore this thing, but for the next 10 minutes, this sort of scratching at the carpet sound persists. And it's starting to kind of get under Hana's skin. Like, what is this? Why is this happening? And then, just as suddenly, the desk drawer rolls open all on its own. The girls are completely across the room. They're nowhere near the desk. And Hana watches as this desk drawer opens. Now, it's on a flat surface. It's not like it's tilted, and so it's easy for it to come out. There is no way this desk drawer should have opened on its own, but both girls watch as it happens. And so Hana, it's like this is the first time she's finally experiencing some stuff, but everybody in the house has. So it's not necessarily surprising, but it is kind of scary. I mean, she believes in this stuff, and now it's actually happening around her. And so, Hana, she turns to her friend Mira, and she says, can we maybe, go downstairs and spend time down there, maybe even sleep down there? And Mira right away, she's like, yeah, of course we can. And so the two of them, they kind of pack up their blankets, pillows, everything they need to sleep, and they move downstairs to the couch. They sit down on the couch, and then they just kind of resume what they were doing. They were talking, hanging out, looking at their phones, just sort of relaxing for the evening. And as they're doing this on the couch, they hear heavy footsteps start coming slowly down the stairs. Thump, 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 loud and persistent, and you could hear as this sound, as whatever this is literally descending the stairs, getting closer to them. And now Hana and Mira, they're both even more freaked out. Hana more so because at least Mira has experienced this. She's used to it. This is the house that she's lived in for years. Hana, while she's heard about this, it's like suddenly this is so much more real to her, and she's freaking out and scared. And Mira, she just turns on the TV, turns up the volume, and then the two of them just sort of huddle together on the couch. And it's at that point that sort of everything, the late hour, cuddled close together, the blankets around them, it sort of takes over, and they both eventually fall asleep despite the fact that there's kind of these creepy things happening around them. Hana is dead asleep on the couch, and then her eyes open suddenly, and she realizes immediately the thing that has woken her up is on her chest, because as soon as she opens her eyes, she sees this giant man on her chest. He is about 60 years old, and he is big, both tall and burly. And she can tell immediately that the man on her chest is a Maori man. Now, the Maori people are Polynesian descendant, and they live in the area of New Zealand, and they're pretty distinct. They have dark skin, dark hair, dark eyes. But the thing that really sets the Maori people apart, what is the most obvious feature of most Maori people, are their tattoos. These traditional tattoos called the Tamoko tattoos, these are ancient ceremonial tattoos that are done over the body and even on the face. And this ghastly creature, this man that is on top of her, he has Tamoko on his chin and around his mouth. And he's on top of her, and she cannot move. And so, she's literally stuck on the couch, arms at her sides, as this giant man is on top of her. And he's looking down at her, grinning with this ghastly smile on his face. And in his hand, he has a cigarette. And, Hana, she's trying to move, she's trying to scream, she's trying to do anything, either to get free or to alert her friend who's right there on the couch next to her, but she cannot move. And this man, this Maori man, he's got this cigarette, and he's slowly acting like he's going to put it out on her, like he's going to burn her with a cigarette. And he keeps taking it and slowly putting it close to her face, and then he'll pull it away at the last second, and then he'll release this laugh, like he thinks the whole situation is so funny. So he puts it right next to her face, and and then he comes back, and then he takes it and he'll put it lower by her chest. And he continues to move down her body, by her stomach, her arms, her legs, but every time he pulls back. And it's like the fear is mounting in Hana. She wants to do something, but she can't. She can't move and she can't scream. And so she thinks to herself, maybe this is not a ghost. Maybe this isn't a spirit. Maybe this is in my head. Maybe I have sleep paralysis. I've heard about sleep paralysis. I've never experienced it before, but this is exactly what people describe. You're literally locked into position. You can't move or speak. You see these phantom creatures that aren't real. Maybe that's what I'm experiencing. And so, because Hana can't move and she can't scream and she has no other defenses against this creature on top of her, she just closes her eyes as tight as she can, and she just hopes that this entity will go away, that this whole experience will just end. And she can feel the weight of this man on her chest. She knows he's still there even with her eyes closed. And so she sits there and she's waiting and she's waiting and she's waiting, and eventually she realizes she has fallen asleep, and then she wakes back up and this man is gone. He's off of her. She feels this heaviness all over the room, and it's very scary, but for the first time she can move again, and she looks and she sees her friend is sitting over there and she's asleep and everything seems okay. And even though there's this sort of darkness permeating the room and this heavy feeling, she feels very violated and disturbed by what happened. At least everything is kind of back to normal, and this man, this ghost is not sitting on her chest. And so eventually Hana falls back asleep. Now when she wakes up in the morning, Mira is already up and her parents are home and they're setting the breakfast table. And so Hana, she gets up, she joins them at the table, and she goes on to explain, not just, her and Mira kind of talk about what happened in the room and coming downstairs and why they were asleep on the couch. But then Hana goes on to explain what happened afterward. And it is here that Mira's mother starts to explain. She says, listen, I'm really sorry that you experienced that. Unfortunately, that is one of the things that does often happen in our house. She said, I have had that exact man wake up. I've woken up with him on my chest. She said, but the problem is he will put out his cigarettes on me and I feel the burns. And that's normally when I can finally break free and he sort of dissipates. And so, Hana, she goes from thinking, obviously they experienced the loud noises, the walking downstairs, the scratching sound, the drawer rolling out on its own. All of that can't be explained. But Hana was just hoping that maybe this really was sleep paralysis and maybe her overactive imagination got the better of her. But now hearing Mira's mom talk about this man, and she's describing this same 60-year-old man, the tattoos, the tamoko on his face, everything down to the last detail, and they've never talked about this before. And so Hana, it's like she's left to think only one thing, that she stayed at her best friend Mira's house. They always told her it was haunted. And now she knows firsthand of the Maori man who brings the Tamoko terror. And so that's going to do it for today's tale. If you found yourself enjoying this or any of the stories on my channel, first-hand true accounts of the supernatural, paranormal, things that go bump in the night, then allow the spirits to guide your planchette to both the like and subscribe button as well as the notification bell. That way you get notified every time I upload new content. And in the month of July, it's going to be every Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Second, as I mentioned, all my stories, they are true first-hand accounts of the supernatural and paranormal. So if you or anybody you know has a story and you think that it would fit well on my channel, just reach out to me on any of my social media and we will find time to get together, collect your story, and potentially one day feature it here on The Orator. And so until next time, where you'll see that the fire is stoked, you may pull up your chair and settle in, and I will have another tale to tell.